They seated me next to a pile of dirty pots at my only daughter's wedding. Between the dishwasher's steam and the smell of grease, I watched Jessica marry Blake through a crack in the kitchen door. I'd paid $85,000 for this fairy tale. Every cent. And they'd made me invisible. The kitchen staff worked around me like I was just another piece of equipment, their eyes avoiding mine with practiced discomfort. One young server, barely out of high school, had tried to offer me a clean napkin when she saw the grease stain on my $800 lavender dress. I'd spent 3 months finding that dress. 3 months believing I'd stand beside my daughter on the most important day of her life. "Ma'am, would you like me to bring you something from the cocktail hour?" she'd whispered, her voice full of secondhand embarrassment. I shook my head, my throat too tight to speak. Through that crack in the door, I could see everything. The ballroom of the Belmont estate glittered like a constellation. Crystal chandeliers cast dancing shadows on the cream and gold walls. Roses and peonies cascaded from every surface. Roses I'd selected with Jessica last spring, back when she still called me every Sunday. But where was my seat? Table 1, where the mother of the bride should sit? Diane Harrison occupied my place, resplendent in champagne silk, her surgically enhanced smile catching the light as she leaned into Blake, my new son-in-law. She touched his face with manicured fingers, and he beamed at her like she'd given him life, like I hadn't spent 28 years raising the woman he'd just married. I pulled out my phone, needing something to do with my shaking hands. The lock screen showed an old photo. Jessica at 5, missing her front teeth, covered in finger paint. "Look, Mama, I made you a rainbow." She'd been so proud of that mess. A notification popped up. Chase Bank. I almost ignored it, but the amount made my breath catch. $3,847 at the Wynn Las Vegas, $2,190 at Tiffany & Co., $4,235 at Prime 112 Miami. My hands weren't shaking anymore. They were steady. Dead steady. Blake Harrison had been using my credit card. "Excuse me?" A harried wedding coordinator appeared at my elbow, clipboard clutched to her chest. "Mrs. Thompson, I'm so sorry for the confusion earlier. Mr. Harrison explained that you preferred to stay out of the spotlight. He said you'd be more comfortable with a private table where you could enjoy the celebration without all the fuss." Mr. Harrison said that. My voice came out calm, dangerously calm.
She nodded, already backing away. "He was very specific, said you had anxiety about crowds." I laughed. One short, sharp sound that made her flinch. "I was an ER nurse for 30 years. I've performed CPR in the middle of gang shootings, but please, tell me more about my anxiety." She fled. I scrolled through 3 months of statements. Las Vegas, Miami, New York. Designer clothes, bottle service, first-class flights, all charged to the emergency credit card I'd given Jessica just in case, the one linked to my account. $47,000. $47,000. "Hey, kitchen lady." A drunk groomsman stumbled through the swinging door, his bow tie askew. "You seen Blake? We need him for the—" "Oh." He stopped, squinting at me. "Wait, aren't you—" "The checkbook. Yes, that's me." He had the decency to look uncomfortable. "I didn't mean—" "Yes, you did." I stood, smoothing my ruined dress. "You meant exactly what you said 20 minutes ago when you were laughing with Blake about how Jessica's mom was just the checkbook and how his parents were the real family now." His face went white. "You heard that? Kitchens? Sound carries in kitchens." I picked up my purse, feeling the weight of the receipts inside. 8 months of wedding payments, venue deposits, catering, flowers, the band, the photographer who was currently capturing every precious moment of my absence. "Tell me something. When Blake said I was too unsophisticated for his family's circle, did you all laugh, or was that just him and Diane?" He backed toward the door, but I wasn't done. When he took my credit card for his bachelor party, the one in Vegas last month, did he mention he was committing fraud, or was that just part of the fun? I should go. Yes, I agreed, sinking back into my metal chair. The door swung shut behind him. Through the crack, I watched the reception continue. The band played The Way You Look Tonight, while Jessica danced with her new husband, her cathedral-length veil, my grandmother's veil, the one I'd preserved for 30 years, trailing behind her like a ghost. Diane cut in, laughing as she spun with Blake. The photographer captured it all. The perfect family. The right family. The family that fit the aesthetic. I pulled out my phone again, not to check the credit card damage this time, but to scroll through my contacts. 3 numbers, 3 calls, 3 decisions that would shatter this fairy tale like the illusion it was. But first, I wanted to see something. I opened my text messages with Jessica. Our last real conversation was 6 months ago. Me, honey, are you free for lunch Sunday? I miss our talks. Jessica, can't. Blake's mom is taking me to the club. Me, maybe dinner? Jessica, we have plans. You understand. I understood. I understood perfectly.
The kitchen door swung open again. This time it was a server with a plate. Reheated chicken, cold green beans, and a wilted salad. She set it down apologetically. From the kitchen staff, she said quietly. We thought you might be hungry. Leftovers. At my daughter's wedding, they were serving me leftovers. I looked at that plate for a long moment. Then I smiled. A real smile. The first genuine expression I'd worn all day. Thank you, I told the server, but I'm about to lose my appetite. I pulled up my banking app, my fingers steady on the screen. The wedding wasn't over yet. The final venue payment, $25,000, wasn't due until midnight. The honeymoon flights to Bora Bora were fully refundable for another 2 hours if there was a family emergency. The Ritz-Carlton downtown was holding the ballroom for tomorrow's brunch, pending final confirmation. Through the crack in the door, I heard Blake's voice boom through the microphone. I want to thank everyone for being here tonight, especially my parents, who showed Jessica what a real family looks like, who welcomed her with open arms and treated her like the daughter they never had. The crowd applauded. I saw Jessica wipe away a tear, gazing at Blake like he'd hung the moon. He continued. And of course, we're grateful to everyone who contributed to making this day special. Everyone. Not Linda, not Jessica's mother, not even Mrs. Thompson. Just everyone. I stood up. My decision was made. They wanted me to stay quiet, to smile, to remain invisible in this kitchen while they celebrated with my money? Fine. I'd stay quiet, I'd smile, and I'd cancel everything, starting now. The catering manager brought me reheated leftovers on a paper plate. That's when I saw it, my credit card statement on my phone. 3 charges I didn't recognize. Vegas, Miami, a jewelry store, all under Blake Harrison. My finger hovered over the first transaction. The Wynn Las Vegas, presidential suite. The date hit me like a slap. Jessica's birthday weekend. She'd told me she was sick, too ill for our traditional birthday dinner. Just a stomach bug, Mom. Blake's taking care of me. Blake had taken care of her, all right, in a $5,000 a night suite charged to my card. I scrolled further. The jewelry store charge was for $8,500. The description made my blood freeze. Cartier love bracelet, engraving DH, forever. DH. Diane Harrison, his mother. My daughter's husband had bought his mother a Cartier love bracelet with my money on my credit card, while I was working double shifts to rebuild my savings after paying for this wedding.
The kitchen noise faded to white static. My vision tunneled. 28 years of sacrifice crystallized into this moment, sitting in a grease-stained dress next to garbage bins while the man who'd stolen from me praised his real family. You okay, hon? An older woman in chef's whites touched my shoulder.
You look like you've seen a ghost. I have. The ghost of who I thought my daughter was. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. I almost ignored it, but the preview made me click. Check Jessica's email. Password is still BlakeLove2023. You deserve to know. A friend. My hands trembled as I logged in. The first email in her inbox was from Blake's sister Courtney, sent 3 hours ago. Jess, OMG, the kitchen solution was brilliant. Your mom totally bought the anxiety excuse. She won't even notice she's not in photos. Win-win. Blake says the coordinator handled it perfectly. Now you can enjoy your day without worrying about, XOXO. Without worrying about what? I scrolled to Jessica's response. I know. I felt bad for like a second, but Blake's right. She would have stuck out like a sore thumb with his family. Can you imagine her trying to talk to the Vanderbilts? At least this way, she's comfortable and we get the photos we want. The kitchen has AC and everything. The kitchen has AC and everything. Like I was a dog they'd kenneled for the day. I scrolled further, my heart hammering. An email chain from 2 months ago with the subject line Operation Wedding Wallet. Blake, babe, your mom's emergency card worked for Vegas. She'll never check. Jessica, are you sure? That's for actual emergencies. Blake, trust me, after we're married, I'll handle all our finances. She won't even have access to question it. My dad's lawyer can set up power of attorney if needed. Old people love that stuff. Jessica, she's not old, she's 58. Blake, old enough. Look, do you want the wedding of your dreams or not? Do you want our kids to have the best of everything or not? Sometimes you have to play the game. Jessica, you're right. She did say to use it if I needed it. And technically, making you happy is an emergency. My chest felt like it was caving in. Every breath was broken glass. This wasn't manipulation. This was conspiracy. My daughter, my baby girl, had knowingly let this man steal from me, had laughed about hiding me away, had called me old and expendable. I found more, so much more. Wedding planning emails where Jessica specifically requested I be seated somewhere discreet. Text messages joking about my Walmart fashion sense. A shared Pinterest board titled Wedding Goals with the note, remember, no photos with mom in the receiving line. Diane gets those shots.
The final blow came in a message thread from last week. Diane, I've been thinking, for the mother's son dance, I'd like to use that special song, A Mother's Love. Would that be all right? Of course! You're his real mother in every way that counts. Linda won't even know there's supposed to be a mother-daughter dance. I told the band to skip it. They cut our dance. The one we'd practiced to Isn't She Lovely when Jessica was 5, standing on my feet in our tiny apartment. The song we'd hummed while I worked 3 jobs to keep her in dance classes. The song she'd promised we'd dance to at her wedding when she was 12 and still believed I hung the moon. Ma'am, a server appeared at my elbow. They're about to cut the cake. Did you want to? No. The word came out sharp enough to cut. But could you do me a favor? Could you tell me where the nearest bathroom is, one the guests aren't using? She pointed down a hallway. Staff bathroom's that way, first door on the left. I gathered my purse, my phone, my shattered dignity. But as I stood, something else caught my eye on Jessica's email, a forwarded invoice from the wedding venue. My name was listed as the guarantor, but there was a note at the bottom. Final payment of $25,000 due by midnight on event date. Failure to process payment will result in immediate cessation of services and full legal action for breach of contract. Immediate cessation of services. At 11:47 p.m., this fairy tale would turn into a pumpkin, and I held the midnight slipper. I looked back through the kitchen door one more time. Jessica was laughing, her hand on Blake's chest, their wedding rings, bought with my retirement fund, catching the light. Diane was holding court at my table in my seat, living my moment.
Blake's words echoed from earlier. My parents are the real family now. Fine, let them be family. Let them handle family expenses. I walked to that staff bathroom, locked the door, and stared at myself in the cracked mirror. 58 years old, gray streaking through hair I dyed blonde because Jessica said it looked more elegant. Worry lines earned from 3 decades of night shifts and single motherhood. Hands that had held my daughter through pneumonia, homework, heartbreak, and now betrayal. I wasn't their family, I whispered to my reflection. I was their ATM. The woman in the mirror smiled back, not the polite smile I'd worn all day, not the forced smile I'd practiced for photos I'd never be in. A real smile, the kind that comes right before you burn everything down.
I pulled out my phone and made the first call. Sunset Travel? Yes, this is Linda Thompson. I need to cancel a honeymoon booking to Bora Bora. The Harrison Thompson reservation? Yes, tonight. Family emergency, I'm afraid. Complete refund to the original card, please. The agent was sympathetic. Of course, Mrs. Thompson, these things happen. The full $18,000 will be credited back within 24 hours. One down. Ritz-Carlton, Dallas? I need to cancel tomorrow's brunch reservation. The Harrison wedding party? Yes, the entire ballroom. No, we won't be needing it after all. 2 down. I saved the best for last. The venue, the final payment, the $25,000 that would come due in exactly, I checked my phone, 73 minutes. But first, I had one more thing to do. I opened my banking app and did something I should have done months ago. I reported my credit card stolen. All those fraudulent charges, every penny Blake had stolen. The banks would investigate, they'd prosecute, and Blake Harrison, investment banker, social climber, thief, would have his perfect record ruined. My phone rang immediately. Jessica. I let it go to voicemail, then I blocked her number. The bathroom door rattled. Someone in there? The cake cutting's in 5 minutes. Just a moment, I called back, my voice steady as a surgeon's. I looked at myself one more time. Fixed my lipstick, smoothed my hair, adjusted the dress that would never appear in wedding photos. Then I walked back to that kitchen, sat in my shameful metal chair, and waited. In 71 minutes, the lights would go out on this fairy tale, and I'd finally stop paying for people who'd already decided I was worthless. 11:47 p.m. I watched the second hand on my phone tick past midnight like an executioner's blade. The kitchen had gone quiet. Most of the staff were out front, serving the last round of champagne for the final toasts. Through the crack in the door, I could see Blake raising his glass, his perfect smile reflecting the chandelier light. To my beautiful bride, and to the family that made this possible. 11:48 p.m. My phone buzzed. A text from the venue's automated system. Payment processing failed. Please update payment method immediately to avoid service interruption. I deleted it. 11:49 p.m. The band was playing Perfect by Ed Sheeran. Jessica swayed in Blake's arms, her grandmother's veil, my grandmother's veil, trailing across the marble floor I'd paid for. Diane was filming on her phone, tears of joy streaming down her lifted face. 11:50 p.m., another buzz. This time a call from the venue manager. I watched his name flash on my screen, listened to it ring once, twice, 3 times, then silence. Through the door, I saw him emerge from a side entrance, his face tight with professional panic. He whispered urgently to his assistant, who immediately paled and scurried toward the band.
11:51 p.m. The music stopped mid-note. Not a graceful ending, just sudden, jarring silence. The guitarist looked confused, glancing at his bandmates. The vocalist was whispering frantically with the assistant. "Technical difficulties, folks," the singer announced with forced cheer. "We'll be back in just a moment." But I knew they wouldn't be. 11:52 p.m. The venue manager was making his way through the crowd now, his forced smile fooling no one. He reached Blake and leaned in close. Even from the kitchen, I could see the color drain from my son-in-law's face. Blake's hand went immediately to his pocket, pulling out his phone. His fingers flew across the screen, checking his bank account, no doubt, finding it exactly as empty as his character. 11:53 p.m. "What do you mean the payment was declined, Blake?" Blake's voice carried across the suddenly quiet ballroom. The absence of music made every word crystal clear. "Run it again." The manager's response was too low to hear, but Blake's reaction wasn't. "That's impossible. Check with..." His eyes found Diane. She was already fumbling for her purse, her earlier confidence evaporating like champagne bubbles. "Mom?" Jessica's voice was small, confused. She still didn't understand, still thought this was some fixable glitch in her perfect evening. "What's happening?" "Nothing to worry about, darling," Diane trilled, but her credit card was already being declined. I knew it would be. Blake had mentioned in those emails how he'd helped his mother invest in some can't-miss opportunity, with my money, naturally. 11:55 p.m. The lights began to dim, not romantically, practically. The venue was shutting down. "Ladies and gentlemen, I'm afraid we need to conclude this evening's festivities. If you could please gather your belongings." The confusion was delicious. Guests murmured, looking at each other with the particular embarrassment of people witnessing something unseemly. The Vanderbilts, the ones Jessica thought I'd embarrass, were already heading for the exits. 11:56 p.m. "This is insane," Blake's voice had lost its polish. "Do you know who I am? Do you know who my family is?" "Sir, without payment, I need you to vacate the premises now." That's when Jessica saw me. Through the open kitchen door, wide open now because the staff had abandoned their posts to watch the drama, our eyes met across the ruins of her perfect wedding.
Her makeup was running. Black streams of mascara carved channels down her cheeks. Her mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. Then understanding dawned in those eyes, the same eyes that used to look at me like I was a superhero. "Mom?" She started toward me, tripping over her hem. "Mom, what did you do?" I stood slowly, my knees protesting after hours in that metal chair. The grease stain on my dress had dried into a permanent mark, like a battle scar. I smoothed it anyway, took a breath, and walked into the ballroom. The guests parted like I was Moses approaching the Red Sea, or maybe like I was something contagious. "What did I do?" I repeated, my voice carrying in the hushed space. "I did exactly what you wanted, sweetheart. I stayed quiet. I smiled. I remained invisible in that kitchen while you celebrated, just like you planned." "Mom, please." But you know what else I did? I pulled out my phone, showing her the bank screen. I reported my stolen credit card, all $47,000 that your husband stole from me. The FBI takes fraud over $10,000 very seriously. Blake lunged forward. "You vindictive old woman, you can't..." "Can't what?" I turned to him and something in my face made him step back. "Can't refuse to pay for people who literally hid me with the garbage? Can't stop funding the lifestyle of a man who called me just the checkbook? Can't protect myself from thieves, even if they married my daughter?" "Mom, I didn't know," Jessica started. "Liar!" The word cracked through the ballroom like a whip. "I read your emails, Jessica, all of them. It would have stuck out like a sore thumb. At least the kitchen has AC. No photos with Mom in the receiving line." Each quote was a nail in the coffin of our relationship. Jessica's face crumbled with each word. "You knew he was stealing from me. You laughed about it. You helped plan it. You called it Operation Wedding Wallet." Gasps rippled through the remaining guests. Someone was recording on their phone. Good. Let the world see what happens when you mistake kindness for weakness. "What grandchildren?" Blake snarled, desperation making him vicious. "You'll never see your grandchildren. I'll make sure..." "What grandchildren?" I laughed, and the sound was broken glass.
The ones you'll raise with my money? The ones you'll teach to hide me in kitchens at their birthdays? No, thank you. I've already raised one child who grew up to despise me. I won't finance the next generation of ingrates. The lights cut completely now. Emergency lighting cast harsh shadows across faces. Staff members were already stacking chairs, their sympathy for the bride and groom non-existent. They'd seen me in that kitchen. They knew.
"You're ruining my wedding," Jessica screamed. Actually screamed. The composed, elegant woman she'd been pretending to be all night shattered like spun sugar. "You're ruining everything." "No, baby." I stepped closer, close enough to smell her perfume, the one I'd bought her for Christmas. "I'm just refusing to pay for my own humiliation anymore. If you wanted a mother at your wedding, you should have treated me like one. If you wanted my money, you should have shown me respect. You can't have it both ways." "Mrs. Thompson," Diane finally found her voice, syrupy with false concern. "Surely we can discuss this like civilized people. After all, family." "Family?" I whirled on her. "Family? You seated family next to dirty dishes? You steal from family? You erase family from photos because they don't match your aesthetic? No, Diane, you're not my family. And as of tonight, neither is she." I pointed at Jessica, my hand steady as iron. "Mom, please," Jessica grabbed my arm. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Blake said, he promised. I just wanted—" "You wanted the wedding of your dreams," I finished. "And you got it. For exactly 3 hours and 56 minutes. Hope it was worth it." Security had arrived. The venue wanted everyone out. Now. Guests scattered like roaches when the lights come on, gathering purses and wraps, avoiding eye contact with the bride and groom. "This isn't over," Blake hissed. "I'll sue you for breach of contract, emotional distress, defamation. You'll what?" I pulled out a small recorder from my purse, the one I'd turned on the moment I'd been seated in that kitchen. "You have 8 hours of audio, Blake, including your charming speech about me being just the checkbook." His face went from red to white to green. "Mom," Jessica's voice was small now, broken, the voice of the little girl who used to crawl into my bed during thunderstorms. "Where am I supposed to go? The honeymoon is canceled. Our apartment— Blake said we don't need to pay rent because his dad owns the building, but his dad didn't own anything." Another lie. I could see it in her dawning horror. "That's not my problem anymore," I said. The words tasted like freedom. "Maybe Diane has a couch. After all, she's your real family now." I turned and walked toward the exit. Behind me, I heard Jessica sobbing, Blake shouting at the venue manager, Diane shrieking about lawsuits and social embarrassment. The kingdom they'd built on my bank account was crumbling, and I didn't look back to watch it fall. The valet brought my car, the sensible Honda they'd mocked in those emails. I tipped him with cash, not caring that it was my last 20 until the bank sorted out the fraud. As I drove away, my phone exploded with calls. Jessica, Blake, Diane, unknown numbers that were probably lawyers or flying monkeys. I turned it off and rolled down the windows, letting the warm Texas night wash over me. For the first time in 28 years, I wasn't anyone's safety net, wasn't anyone's wallet, wasn't anyone's embarrassment to hide. I was just Linda Thompson, 58 years old, grease-stained dress, empty bank account, and absolutely, completely, gloriously free. The highway stretched ahead, illuminated by stars that didn't care about wedding themes or social status. I had nowhere to go but forward. Nothing to lose but chains I'd wrapped around myself in the name of motherly love. They'd wanted me invisible? Fine. Let them see how visible their bills would be without me. 3 months later, I stood on my tiny balcony in Galveston, watching the sunrise paint the Gulf of Mexico in shades of rose gold. The beachfront condo wasn't fancy, just 800 square feet of freedom, but it was mine, paid for with the settlement from the fraud investigation and the sale of my Houston house.
Blake Harrison was facing federal charges. Turns out I wasn't his only victim, just the one who finally fought back. "Linda, you ready?" My neighbor Carmen called through the screen door. "The ladies are waiting." I smiled, setting down my coffee. Good coffee now, not the store brand I'd drunk for years to save money. "Coming." The Invisible Mothers Support Group met every Tuesday at my place. 12 women who'd been erased, used, and discarded by the children they'd sacrificed everything for. We'd found each other through my story, which had gone viral after a wedding guest posted the video, "Mother exposes daughter's betrayal at 85K wedding." Had 17 million views last I checked. Maria announced as we settled into our circle, "I saw my son yesterday. First time since I refused to mortgage my house for his business. He actually looked me in the eye and apologized." We clapped, but carefully. Apologies were just words. We'd all learned that. "What did you say?" asked Dorothy, whose 3 kids had put her in the cheapest nursing home they could find until she'd fought for her independence. "I said I'd forgiven him, but I hadn't forgotten. Trust is earned, not inherited." That had become our motto. Trust is earned, not inherited. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost ignored it, but something made me answer. "Linda? Mom?" Jessica's voice was different, older, tired. "Please don't hang up." I stepped onto the balcony for privacy. 2 minutes. "I'm working at Denny's, the night shift. Blake left me for his lawyer's daughter 2 weeks after the charges were filed. Everything was lies, Mom. Everything. The apartment, the connections, the money, all lies." I waited. Apologies were just words. "I found something," she continued, "in the storage unit. My old diary from high school. Do you remember what I wrote for my senior project? About my hero?" I remembered. She'd written about me, called me the strongest woman in the world, who never complained, never asked for anything. I'd cried reading it. "I became someone else," Jessica whispered. "Someone who would trade her mother for a country club membership. Someone who would let a man steal from the person who raised her alone. I don't expect forgiveness. I wanted you to know that the daughter you raised is still in here somewhere, under all this ugliness." "I know," I said quietly, "but she made choices, and choices have consequences. Are you happy, wherever you are?" I looked at my small sanctuary, at the group of women inside who'd become my real family, at the journal on my table where I was finally writing my story. Not Jessica's, not Blake's, mine. "Yes," I said. "For the first time in my life, I'm happy." "Good." Her voice broke. That's good. You deserved that. You deserved so much more than we gave you." "Jessica." "Yeah?" "When you're ready, really ready, to be the woman you were before Blake Harrison poisoned your mind, call me, but not before. Not for money, not for sympathy, only when you can look me in the eye as my daughter, not my debtor." "I love you, Mom." "I know," I said. "I love you too. But love without respect is just manipulation. Remember that." I hung up and returned to my friends. These women who understood that a mother's love should multiply her value, not diminish it. Who knew that when someone shows you where you rank in their life, believe them the first time. Carmen raised her juice glass. To Linda, who reminded us that we don't have to pay for our own erasure. To all of us, I countered, who learned that the word no is a complete sentence. Who discovered that walking away from toxic people, even our own children, isn't giving up, it's growing up. We toasted to our freedom, to our futures, to the beautiful truth that you can't pour from an empty cup, and you sure as hell can't pour into people who've drilled holes in the bottom of theirs. The sun climbed higher, warming my face. Somewhere in Dallas, a young woman was serving pancakes to truckers and learning what life costs when you can't charge it to someone else's card. Maybe she'd find her way back. Maybe she wouldn't. Either way, I was done paying for the journey.
Because here's what they don't tell you about motherhood. Your job is to raise adults, not aged children. And when those adults choose to treat you like an ATM instead of a mother, your job is officially done. I was free, visible, valued. And honey, I was worth every penny of that $85,000 lesson.